And welcome back, gamers. I'm Draxxinusam. We are here again playing Dwarf Fortress. As you can see, things look a little bit different. It's probably a little bit more readable at close range, just because, or not necessarily full screen. I've basically tried a few things to make this a little bit easier. I got some comments, and I'm here to help you guys, so I've basically changed the resolution and my own sort of screen so we can see a little bit better. Or at least you can see a little bit better. For me, it's kind of driving me mad, but, you know, you can see, so... Or at least I hope you can. I'll definitely check the video beforehand. So, alright. So, as you recall, we left off on the... oh, as you can see, we just got an announcement. Interrupted by a wild boar. I don't see a wild boar there. I see a dead boar. Huh. Anyways, so as you recall, we left off having just created this guy here, which is our housing complex, basically. So hopefully, I don't remember what exactly is going on around here. Nothing too important. So we're going to go ahead and get started on those. We'll start it there, we'll say, and here, why not? We'll keep our miners busy until the end of time. So, a couple things we are hoping for we're hoping for a trade caravan, just so we can show you how the trading mechanism works. In the meantime, I'll be showing you a little bit more about how to design your own, and how to basically put together your own little housing unit. Again, I don't necessarily think that you need to make something this complex. I showed you in the last video how to make sort of quick and dirty kind of housing, and that's definitely an option. If you want, you can create boxes to make it seem more like a room than a shaft that you kind of stuff dwarves into. Whatever suits your playstyle. I definitely started off there, but it kind of drove me nuts just because it just looked so ugly. But again, it's your Dwarf Fortress, and so you see that purple there? That means something has rotted, which is no bueno. Pretty crap. So we have to go to the butcher shop. So we're gonna have to hit Q, and there's a way to look into. I believe it's profile. Nope, not profile. Cancel current task. I think it's T, I want to say? Yes, so T will actually zoom and show you what is in a workshop. So as you can see here, hopefully if the screen isn't freaking out, we have a wild boar corpse. So someone left it there and it went bad. So we're going to dump that. Because Miasma, which is this purple cloud, basically when dead stuff lies around, which is why we try and get rid of those, even though they don't cause miasma, they make dwarves feel gross, so we get rid of those as quickly as possible. So the reason that happened is because we don't have a butcher dwarf. So we are going to make sure we have one, and we're going to make it this guy here. So let's go to farming and farming related, and we will go to butchery and tanning. So that's now his job. We're gonna try and scroll through here. So as you can see, definitely, at least for me, not that I'm like bragging or anything, but I sort of have too many ideas for my dwarves to keep up with. That's why things are rotting, and these are sort of flashing, because we basically don't have enough dwarves to keep track of those. So that's why in the beginning migrants are nice, but they definitely sort of wear out your welcome, especially when you get groups of like 30 dwarves coming in at a time, and you go through every dwarf individually. It gets old. But obviously I keep coming back, so I definitely enjoy the game. And as you can see, our still stopped, but that was because we sort of ran out of plump helmets. That's definitely a problem you have to keep on top of. You have to sort of... that's why I recommend having a kitchen, but not necessarily turning it on and having it cracking away, because unlike brewery, it's sort of weird, because unlike brewery, you actually don't get seeds back. So when you... oh, something else rotted. Son of a... do all this hunting just to dump those. Crap. Yeah, so... I forgot what I was saying. Crap. Freaking doors. Or probably, it's probably more my fault than my dwarves. But still, I can blame them because they can't complain at me. So here we are striking tetrahedrite and morion, which is a type of gem and a type of ore. I believe that ore becomes copper and tin, maybe? I don't think it's iron. But the reason why I haven't really built a smelter yet and that sort of thing is dwarf power. We're kind of low on that. I mean, we're still sort of like hobbling along trying to keep things running as is. But also, we're having the main reason is I don't actually have any sort of way to power this, to power a smelter. It was why I was talking a couple episodes ago about lava. Lava is basically a free power, so you can always build like smelters and stuff over lava, which basically uses that as a sort of fuel source, so you don't need like to process lumber or any sort of like coal or that sort of thing. It basically just always has power, which is nice, but you sort of have to take some concessions to get that ability. Like things are a little bit more difficult for you just because there's probably less trees around a mountain volcano, and there's probably less things to hunt and that sort of thing. So it's sort of a trade-off. And just because we're playing this early game, I'm assuming you're going to want food and trees more than you're going to want lava. So that's basically how we went about that. So the next thing I'm actually going to design, and we're going to do it right now, even though we don't have really the dwarf power to make it happen, is an indoor well. Do I really want to? I mean, I have to, but it's gonna be messy. Okay, so one thing you have to think about as wells is any square where there's water, the square just below that is called damp stone, even though if it's like sand or something, or it'll basically count as damp stone, which means that you're really close to breaching water. The reason it warns you is because obviously, like, if I tap into this, where there's just always flowing water, eventually it could easily fill up my entire fortress. And that sucks. So, be careful of that. And also, something to note, currently in this build version, look at all those dead things right there. Oh yeah, that's because it's part of our garbage dump. But one thing to note is whenever stagnant water, so you see these pools, it counts as stagnant water, and you see over here it counts as just water. Whenever stagnant water touches normal water, that water becomes stagnant. So like if I were to open this up, this entire river would basically become worthless because it would all become stagnant water. And that has happened to me. I have built incredibly complex water features, basically like, because if you see over here, we have a waterfall, because this is open air and this is flowing water, so it tells you that there are a few levels. So there's about 4 levels. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 3 or 4 levels, somewhere in there, because that's the surface. 1, 2, 3. It's about 3 levels to the surface. It creates these little misties, which if you hit K, it says mist. That actually creates positive or happy thoughts for dwarves. So if you happen to be advanced enough where you can actually plan out... Oh, crap. Well, it was what we wanted. So we actually have a caravan arriving, but I'm going to finish my thought here. So basically the mist creates a happy thought, so if you're so advanced that you can create like a sort of indoor waterfall, but if you're going to try that, just remember you have to consider what to do with the water when it actually gets to the bottom of the shaft, and then what to do with it. Like usually I channel it off screen and that sort of stuff, but if you can get the waterfall working in a place that's frequented, like where a lot of dwarves have to pass through, they will, it'll help you, it'll help keep them clean because it sort of makes blood and vomit and that sort of stuff like melt off of them, which is nice, except for that little floor piece, then it gets kind of disgusting, but it also makes them happy, which is really nice. So, as you may have seen a second ago, we got a notification that an outpost liaison from Utlegojum has arrived. The outpost liaisons are usually only ever from the dwarves. So that your first caravan will always be dwarven. So that is a pretty good indicator there. So they, let's let's see if we can find those guys. Let's go to announcements and we'll hit Z to zoom to location. So as you can see, they brought wagons. So they are going to have lots of stuff. Wagons, always a good thing. They can carry more. They can carry bigger items. So like they can sometimes just bring pack animals, but that will preclude larger items. And that's a problem. So this is lucky. We get to do trading. So what we have to do, as you see, because the broker we assigned over in the N menu, which is right here, we gave him, what was that ability called? Brokering, I think? Trading? I forget. But anyways, so that means when we put him as the broker, all trade depots start out as having a... it's set to requiring a broker to trade. I highly recommend keeping it on this because when idiot dwarves who don't know how to trade are trading, you will get ripped off. And they also are more easily and readily pissing off the people who are trying to trade with you. So it's only ever in an emergency case where you're just trying to get, like, if you really need that shipment of wood, you just send anyone, you're like, give them whatever, we just want that wood. Then you can switch, you can hit B here and switch it to anyone. Or if the broker is being a jerk and he's not doing his job, that's always a thing to do as well. So we are actually going to trade some goods, so we are going to hit G, and it comes up with this incredibly long list of stuff, and it gets obviously longer the longer your dwarf fortress has been around. So basically some things to note are anything that has like these brackets around it basically means it basically wasn't created from your fortress. Like it either was brought in by migrants, or it was in the wagon that came originally, or you bought it, that sort of thing. And then the other things to note are these hash marks here. We kind of went through that when we were planning out the fortress and we were placing down tables and chairs. But these are basically the same sort of thing, and you can look them up in the Dwarf Fortress wiki for the quality, but they basically, the better the quality, the more valuable the good, obviously. And I believe these, like, I don't know if we have any. These are basically the second best quality, with the little, like, star bursts. I don't see anything else. But anyways, so those will also relay a sort of quality, which gives you a better trading price. So the thing with trading is there isn't money. Like, you're not trading for a type of money, but there's like a value currency. It's a little bit crazy, but we'll go into that in a little bit. So basically what you do, you navigate this menu with the up and down. And so this will take you through this one, and then you hit left to go into the next menu that you want to ship goods into, and then up and down will control that menu. So as you can see, I'm moving through here. So then you go ahead and hit enter, and it will say pending. So pending means that it's waiting for a dwarf to pick it up and dump it over in the trade depot. If you want to cancel something, you hit enter again, and it goes away. If it says trading, it'll be in yellow text, and it'll say trading. It means it's in the depot, and you're putting it up for sale. So obviously, as you can see, crafts and toys sort of have the same bins. It's sort of because they are classified as a similar type of item, so they can be basically bunched together in the same sort of bins, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be a same sort of item. They will just dump stuff together. So it's definitely a problem, like if you spend a lot to create weapons and that sort of thing, and or armor, and you dump them into bins that don't necessarily aren't meant for armor specifically, because traders will always prioritize those items. So like if you have a high quality like iron helmet, but you meant that for like a military dwarf and he hasn't picked it up, they will be like, oh, we want that. So when you trade, they'll actually like adjust the trade to try and get that item. And depending on your skill or the dwarf's skill, the deal might get worse and worse for you the more you try and barter with them. You sort of learn as you go. So we'll include that. We'll leave those. I guess we'll ship a couple of barrels, because they might be worth some money. We want to keep our buckets. We want to keep our quivers. And that looks to be everything that we can really trade. So unless you were really on top of this, you probably won't have a whole ton to trade, but that's fine. So then when we're done, you can hit M because there's mandates and that sort of thing, and you can hit P and you can sort this and that sort of stuff. So you can sort by distance, basically how long it takes to ship, but we sort of tried to take care of that. So usually if you had a lot of free dwarves, you would see this number drop instantly because those jobs are immediately picked up. But we don't have that problem because all of our dwarves are incredibly busy. So, and then you can watch here. Basically, dwarves will pick up crap and they'll haul it over here. This little @ symbol. Let's see. I think I missed it. There it is. So he's going to follow around the expedition leader, which is this guy. Sometimes it's the mayor, depending on the stage level of your fortress, and he will basically say, "Hey." Especially with the dwarves, they'll say, "Hey, what do you want? This is what we want," and we'll go into more of that when we actually see that pop up. But as you can see, they're unloading their goods now. Here come the wagons. They, like I said, they require 3, and they can take, turn on a dime, so you don't have to worry about making those larger, but they will always be able to travel through 3, unless you create traps or something. So they'll unload those. It'll take them a minute. It's probably for the best because we have not a whole lot of manpower and everyone's asleep, so it'll take us a little bit longer as well. Let's see here. No. I was going to put out some more furniture, but that would kind of take away from actually shipping stuff over to the trade depot, and so sometimes you have to prioritize things in your head, like, do I really need those chairs over there right now? And the answer is probably not. So we do need those because traders will not stay forever. They will basically stay as long as they want, usually not more than a season, even whether or not you've traded with them. So it's best to try and get into that as quickly as possible. So we're going to have him conduct his meeting because that says what our trader is doing right here. And it's saying he can get there, so that's good. And it'll also tell you who your broker is. So when you're ready to send your trader over, I'll go ahead and hit R, and it'll say trader requested at depot, and the other one is no trader needed at depot. But we need a trader over there, so we're going to send him, and then when he's free, he'll walk over there. So the problem is, it never tells you when he arrives. As you see, there's no notification that any trading is ready to happen or any sort of thing. So, like, if we go into announcements, see, there's no mention of it anywhere in here. So, basically, trading, you have, whenever it says trading caravan has arrived, if it's someone you care to trade with, like, sometimes the elves have kind of crap, like, they're good for animals and sort of that sort of thing. But anyways, you have to pay attention, because I've had times when I really needed something and I knew the caravan had it, but I was preoccupied with a build or something, and they basically left. As soon as it says they're preparing to leave, you're basically done. They're not going to trade with you anymore. So once your trader gets here, if you're paying attention, it'll say trade at depot, and then if he's there, this trade option will light up, which is exactly what we want. So if we hit T, it takes us into this crazy menu. So basically, okay, so follow with me here. We'll see if we can't make this make some sense. So over here is basically what the trader brought. Over here is what you are offering the trader. The trader isn't going to buy anything specifically. He's not going to say, "Oh, I want that and that and that," until after after you make an offer. So you don't have to worry about, like, oh, what does he want? What do I have to sell him? So basically, you get to choose the things that are going to be traded unless they make you a counter offer. These numbers here, so these little, like, weird turtle star things, basically, this is what really confused me when I first started playing, because I'm like, what the flip? Like, this seems to be some sort of value, but, like, do I get it and then I sell it back? Like, I didn't understand. But it's basically, like, what you're doing is you basically order what you want up to however much you can afford. Like, if you're a really amazing trader, like, maybe you might be able to get the trader at a disadvantage where they're actually losing money. But you basically want those numbers to be as close as possible for the best trade, and the farther away, obviously, the more positive this number over here, the worse the deal is for you. This other number here is basically the weight of the item, and usually you don't have to worry about that. If they didn't bring any wagons, you definitely have to worry. If they didn't, or if they have wagons, then you might want to try and buy some heavier items from them. So like this is a weight value of 89, so that's kind of a lot. And I mean, the only thing heavier is like just rocks or like blocks. See, like this is just a hunk of like dirt. It's like a bucket of dirt, and it's only worth 3. So one thing that I always it never comes along in the first shipment, but it's definitely important. I always try and have them import wood, but that'll come up a little bit later when it actually talks about like when they ask what you want, and that will sort of affect the other traders as well. So it's always good to try and get that. So a lot of this won't make much sense, just because it's probably your first time going through, so it's sort of like, what is this? But so we'll go through it as best we can. So this is sort of like these are type of gems. Blocks, you rarely need blocks. Blocks can be made from stone, so it would be pretty rare that you actually need a block. The actual metal, you can always hit V and it'll tell you about the good. And you can hit V again for a description. In this case, it's pretty boring just because it's like a metal ingot, basically. One thing you might want to purchase, just to keep your gem cutters busy, just because, I mean, you're not always going to be swimming in gems, you can actually buy glass and turn those into gems, where you basically buy it and then cut it for, basically, like, just to make some value, because obviously things that have been cut, even like raw gems to actual cut gems, basically their value jumps. The same is true of glass, and that sort of thing. So as you can see, we sort of ordered these up. T is the means that is what you're wanting to buy. To navigate this menu, it's up and down on the arrow keys and enter to select an item. So as you can see, I can hit enter and it either removes or adds that item, and stuff sort of changes here. So this means right now, if we tried to do the trade, the trader would basically be out 126 turtle money, or whatever you want to happen to call it. And they tend to not like to trade like that. They'll be pretty grumpy with you. You get 3 shots. If you mess up the 3 shots, they're out, and they will be angry with you. So be careful with that. So we'll go through and see what else we want to buy. I wouldn't necessarily buy, unless you're really hurting for rope, I wouldn't necessarily buy that. Obviously, it's a little hard to read, but you can hit V for a description. This is a water skin. I wouldn't necessarily buy that either. That's for, like, troops and that sort of thing when they have to go out. I would never buy toys, instruments, crafts, anything like that, unless you wanted to melt it down. So, like this copper toy axe, I could technically buy it and then melt it down and turn that into a metal ingot that I could then turn into something else. They will also bring animals, so as you can see, they brought a cow in a nickel cage. And it's a female cow, a cavi sow, which is another female. They bring just cages, which are pretty heavy. They'll bring alpacas. Here's a nanny goat. Here's some type of bird. Here's a dog, which I actually do want. So we'll buy one of those. And then they've just got barrels. If there's anything in it, it'll obviously label it. Like, this is a dog in a cage, so if you come down here, there's bat blood in this barrel, which is something used in alchemy, which isn't necessarily very important. So we're at 176 right now. If you're having problems with beer, you can always buy that. Dwarven ale, rubber wood. See, this is just an empty barrel. This is some beer, and you have to kind of think about what you have available to sell. Here's some buckets, here's some more hammers, and that. So these are pretty expensive. Unless you are like really pumping out the crafts and that sort of thing, I would suggest avoiding any type of weapons right off the bat, unless you like really need a weapon. So basically, like, see this here, steel battle axe, that is incredibly expensive, especially early game. Later game, maybe not as much, just because you have really highly trained dwarves with probably very well-refined items. So that'll probably be less expensive, but right now that is that's way outside our price range. So we'll keep going. Steel Warhammer. And obviously the prices here are reflected by their quality as well. So the higher the price, it tends to be the better the quality of the item. just as a sort of FYI. But obviously, some things have a base value, like an armor breastplate. Even if it's the worst quality, it'll still be like more valuable than a leather chest piece in terms of like protection. So that's always something to consider. Armor is sort of kind of crazy. We won't sort of talk about it here just because we are, I mean, we're already pushing time here, so let's keep going. Basically more bits of armor and clothing. And here's some bags. So here we have like cave wheat, and I definitely recommend, if you can, purchase sort of like food type bags. So here we're buying rock nuts, so things that can basically be turned into food. Especially if you're new to the game, you're probably going to want to prioritize that as well, just in case you happen to have wasted any of your seeds that came with you. You'll have a chance to sort of replenish those via this trader. Gypsum plaster is important, but not necessarily right now, just because we probably don't have a lot to trade with on our end, so we'll probably just leave this. One thing to note that'll be a great boon to you later is cloth. They always come in, so this says cloth bin, and then it's sort of tabbed in a little, and it has all of these listings. So I can, if I wanted, I could order this, and it would basically include everything that's tabbed in under it. So all of that pigtail fiber cloth would come with this bin, which is why it's so expensive. It's basically just the addition of all of these tabbed in items. And then when it tabs out again, it's a new item. So then this leather bin basically contains all of this tabbed in leather. And then, so it basically repeats. And they usually bring a lot of these. So let's see. You can hit page up and page down to scroll through. So they, as you can see, they brought about 5-6 pages of those sort of things, which is definitely very helpful in late game. Maybe after like the first caravan, I recommend almost always buying the leather. Just because, as you can see, the leather comes at a pretty cheap price, but you can basically turn a handful of leather into something that's worth several hundred or several thousand turtle dollars. So I always buy all their leather, and then because obviously cloth is a little bit more expensive, just to keep my clothes makers and looms busy and that sort of thing, I try and buy as much of the cloth as possible. But I always prioritize leather. So unfortunately, we're not rich right now. We'll do some trading. Basically, I've purchased everything I got that I knew I would need. And if you happen to... so I would always recommend getting those first. And then if you have something you sort of want, I would recommend waiting until after you've decided what you're going to trade for it. So... the other, I think I saw something here. You can buy bolts. Bolts are pretty expensive. As you can see, 25 bolts are almost as much as that one battle axe, so those are very, very expensive. Steel anvils, this is what I wanted to talk about. So if you did not bring an anvil in the early, when you embarked, you can definitely buy it now. Basically, if you can wait that long for an anvil, or if you want to... pay the price for it. So iron anvils are always going to be 100, steel anvils are always going to be 300, so if you think you can manage that, you can definitely get the 100 points in the beginning and get that just purchased. So here, basically the rest of this is just food, and a lot of these come in units of 5, so we'll go ahead and just buy a couple of these, just because food's always nice. Plump helmets, a little bit more expensive, but if you were having problems with seed or food in general, you definitely have that option here now. And then you can buy thread. Thread is useful because if you have any weavers, they basically, if you want to keep them busy, you can buy the thread and they'll turn it into cloth. Or if you have a hospital, you can basically, they use that as their sutures and that sort of thing. So these are always very useful. In the beginning, probably not so important, just because, I mean, I don't have all the money in the world. We don't have as many goods ready to go to sell. So we'll probably leave those for now. And then they have cheese and that sort of thing. Those are sort of luxury items. If you want to buy that, that's up to you. They're kind of expensive for food, but sometimes they make dwarfs happy. And if you have the money, I mean, you can go ahead and buy it. So, you can see right now, for all of the goods that we wanted, we may even just buy a couple more plump helmets, just to make sure that we're good to go. So, okay, so if we need to make at least 706 for this to go over. And I mean, you can always try and push the limit, but that's up to you. So you basically hit over to the arrow, so that's highlighted here, and then it's the same sort of principle as here. You hit enter, and T means that's what you're offering up for trade. So, and then it's the same sort of principle where anything tabbed in is in that sort of bin. So here in this finished goods bin, this is basically the sum of everything below it until it tabs back out. And on usually crafts, because they take up so little room, it usually goes a long way, which is why that's 510. And as you can see, these are all crafts, and so this is a craft, 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 etc., 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 etc. So that's why you create these, is basically just to have fodder to sell. Like, none of these really have any value. Dwarves can't use them, at least not yet. You don't ever get them. Toy boats, those were the toys that you kids don't ever use those. This is crowns or crafts. Forges, rings, crafts, there's goblets in here somewhere. So those are all basically just fodder to sell so you can have something to sort of trade with. So those were all included, so if I try and add something else, it basically says, okay, well, you obviously just want to trade specific things in that bin, so it takes the T off of here, and then puts it on whatever, and then I'd have to add it up myself. But since I just want to sell everything in here, I don't necessarily care, I select that. So now we're pretty close. We're within 26, and if you want, you could try and get it dead on, but the traders are obviously in to make money, so they tend to want it to err on their side, and that's fine. I mean, if you're selling crafts and piccolos and mugs and crowns, chances are you don't necessarily care that you're losing money, you just care that you're getting what you want. So, I'm actually not going to sell that, because there's ropes and things. Ropes are kind of valuable in the beginning, because you need them for, like, wells and that sort of thing, so I'm not actually going to sell those. Splints are used for medical purposes. They're easy to make, but I don't necessarily want to use them. So as you can see, we are now at a profit for the trader of 54 units, or 54 turtle bucks, whatever you want to call it. So that means we could definitely try and trade here, but now that we know that we've got some breathing room, if we wanted to buy more stuff, we could come back here and try and figure out what we want. Or if you want to just make sure you have that, you can hit T, which means basically finalize the trade, and it will sort of try and kick through and see if they'll take that. So we're actually going to buy this leather now that I know that I can afford it. And what else do we want? What else? What else? What else do you jerks even have? Not a whole lot. And since I came with an anvil, I'm not necessarily going to buy these. It would be a waste. It would be a pretty rare occasion that you would need more than one so early in the game. So, I mean, they can always come on later shipments, so don't think that anything you miss here will never be seen again. Sometimes that's true of, like, creatures, but that's not necessarily always true of everything that they happen to be lugging along with them. So I could buy some of these, but they're kind of pricey, so I'll probably hold off on that. So I guess I'll just buy... if he has more pigtail seeds, I might buy those. And again, if you ever have a question of what's in a bag, so like if you're like, what is this? You can always hit V, and it'll tell you it's basically a bag made of giant cave spider silk, and it has white sand in it, and it'll tell you this is the value of the item and what's contained within it. So you can always hit V for the description, and it tells you a little bit more. And that's definitely more important on, like, let's see if I can give you an example. Like this large rectangular red tourmaline cabokin or whatever. So hit V. I just decorated with superior quality mule bone. So as you can see, like, things can get pretty advanced here. So let's see. Yeah, so we actually have quite a bit of wiggle room. So let's go ahead and just trade everything we've got, or at least most of everything we got, and we'll kind of go. So that's basically everything. So 634 is my spending limit. So let's buy... I wish he had more leather. Let's buy this gypsum plaster bag. Let's buy... And I mean, don't feel bad to sort of experiment and figure out what you need. I mean, we've all done it. I've done it. And I've had some catastrophes and some great, like, woo, I can't believe that happened. They brought that. That's awesome. So we will go ahead. I guess we will, let's buy some yarn and thread. some plump helmets. Some more of this. So 156 seems pretty fair to me in terms of a profit, so we'll go ahead and hit T. And he's basically saying, you are getting a lot for some pretty crap items, so I'm not going to trade that. So we're going to have to basically give him a sweeter deal. So we're going to knock off all of this, and we'll knock off some of the plump helmets, and then we'll hit, how about that? And he says, perfect, you have a deal, my friend. So now, all of those items we have highlighted are items we now own, and all of the ones we had over here are items that'll be listed here. So anything that's white is basically something that came from us. So this mahogany splint came from us here. Oh, no. It's the other way around. So yellow is things that we created, and white are things that were brought along or discovered or that sort of thing. So all of this, we can definitely trade back for it, but I don't know why you would. But that's basically to help keep you straight what you had and what you want. So all the white stuff is stuff they brought and all that sort of thing. So when you're done, you can either just offer them stuff. So like if we wanted to be cool, we could say, hey, do you want these splints? But we can't offer that because it's not something we made. So we will go ahead and say, okay, we're all done, so go ahead and hit escape, and then tell your trader to go home. So hit R, and he will wander off. These guys will hang out for a while. I think they may have changed the code where after a short period of time after you've done the trade, they leave, but it could be that they'll just wait out their entire time here, so that's definitely something that can happen. So any minute now, we will get the trader telling us how cool we are and what we want to make sure that everyone is getting the maximum amount of profit next season or next year. So that will come in hopefully the next tutorial soon. But hopefully this has helped you sort of understand trading better. If not, leave a comment, and I'll see if I can't explain it a little bit better in text, or maybe it'll become clear to you either seeing it again or just trying it yourself. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. And hopefully, like I said, next episode we'll see the sort of negotiation. Click like or subscribe if you happen to have found this video useful or interesting in any sort of way. Or don't. That's your opinion. Either way. And I've definitely enjoyed having you here. And hopefully the changes that we've made basically to make the screen a little bit bigger have made it a little bit easier on the eyes, a little bit easier to see what's going on. So, alright, I've been Draxxinusam, you've been wonderful, and we will see you here next time. You have a good one, gamers.